This is Scott Spears, and all this week we're mourning the passing of a legendary actress, Ann B. Davis, better known as Alice the Maid, Alice Nelson on the hit TV series The Brady Bunch. She passed away Sunday at age 88. Joining us today is a dear friend, very close friend of Ann's, Bishop William Frey. Bishop Frey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you.
Bishop, the first thing I want to talk about is, for people who don't know, could you tell us a little bit about you and how you met Ann?
Ann B. Came to visit us in Denver when I was serving as the Episcopal Bishop in Colorado back in the 70s, and we lived in a kind of extended family household community, a very informal kind of community with 4 generations of people living under the same roof. She was fascinated by that, and when she was between shows, she came to visit us in January of 1976, and after about a month or so decided she wanted to stay, and we thought that was great, so she's been a member of our family for 38 years.
Bishop Frey, not that there is anything wrong with that, but why do you think somebody who had the financial ability to certainly be on her own and certainly the recognition to live anywhere she wanted would want to live in a communal area like this?
I have no idea, except that she had experienced a kind of midlife reconversion, and the Lord and the church were the primary influences in her life. She was a very un-Hollywoodish sort of person, down to earth. What you see is what you get, and great sense of humor, very bright, very intelligent, and she just wanted to be closer to the fire, if you can put it that way. And so she moved into our community. From a private house in Hollywood, she moved into a bedroom with 2 other single women who were part of our community and loved it. She participated in several aspects of ministry. Her favorite was our homeless shelter, where she volunteered a couple of times a week and was there washing dirty socks, getting to know the homeless people of Denver.
Being that the Brady Bunch was such a gigantic hit, and as you say, this dates back to 1977, she came back to Hollywood and did some very popular things, the big screen adaptation of the Brady Bunch. She did a lot of Brady reunions. Was it hard for her to live in this community, come and go back to Hollywood, come back, and then be known as Ann B. Davis, I'm sure, in that community?
No, she just took it for granted. It was sort of routine for her. She would go out to Hollywood and do what she was supposed to do, learn her lines and hit her spots, and then come back home and go back to normal life. She was a very devoted Christian, and hold on just a second, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
But I'll just let that ring. I don't know what else to do with it. Anyway, sorry for the airtime there, the empty airtime, but I think that'll stop ringing now. At least I hope so.
There we go.
But she had no problem with that. Denver was her home where we lived, and the various appearances, she'd do them very professionally and do them quite well, and then come back home. That was all there was to it. There was no tug on her to recreate a, quote, Hollywood type of existence. She was just a real person.
Being that she did have such recognizability, I think everybody has seen the Brady Bunch, was it ever hard for her to go into a homeless shelter or live her life without assistance? Just in public, was she encroached upon by people who just wanted to meet her?
Not too bad, no. Most people, certainly church people, just took her for granted. They were delighted to have Ann B. as part of our church community in Colorado. and she traveled around to give her testimony to a number of people, different churches all over the country. But she was just a regular person and didn't seem to be bothered by that. She was very gracious to people who did want an autograph or a picture or something like that, but that didn't distract her from her purpose in life.
Were people ever shocked that the person helping them was Alice from the Brady Bunch?
Of course they were. At least those who had seen TV or anything and known her, they were a little bit shocked, yes, but delighted.
Absolutely. Bishop, I want to ask you this because I would assume you probably know her best than anybody in the last 30 years, 40 years. Why do you think somebody who was so driven, because you have to be driven at some point to have the success that she did in television, could leave it all behind? Was acting a love of hers, do you think?
Oh, yes, very much so. She loved acting, loved doing her job, but she had other priorities in her life which she knew were more important. Her awareness of God, her awareness of the Lord was primary in her life. That's the big thing. That's the big issue in her life, not the glitz and the glamour of anything else.
The last 10 years that she really hadn't done a whole lot of acting, two questions. Number one, was that a conscious choice not to act anymore and appear on the big screen? And what was her life like, just that she wasn't out in the public anymore?
Well, the past 18 years when we've lived in San Antonio, she did do some periodic appearances on various shows and programs, but had no desire to go back into that as a full-time vocation. She had sort of ended on a high note, 1996, when she had been on the Broadway production of Crazy for You, a Gershwin musical. She loved that. That was great. And then I retired from running a small Episcopal seminary in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, and we retired to San Antonio, and she just settled down to normal life here with an occasional appearance on this, that, or the other. But I think the last time she did anything official was 4 or 5 years ago. There was a TV Land special where they were honoring members of various TV series, all the way from Roots to the Brady Bunch and everything in between. When she was introduced, she got a standing ovation for about 5 minutes, which really shocked her. I mean, these were the Hollywood people, the people she had worked with and so on, and they really loved her and gave her this marvelous standing ovation. She said a lot of people would say to her, "You helped raise me." And she had a stock reply. She would say, "And look how well you turned out." So that was kind of her swan song. Since then, with old age, she's had arthritic knees and difficulties with her rotator cuffs, limited movement of her arms, walked with a walker, little difficulty hearing, and her vision was beginning to be diminished a bit. She just hasn't wanted to travel or do anything, and she's just routinely turned down all invitations to do interviews or guest appearances on this program or that. And so she's just happy to stay at home, be a very active member of her local parish church, and do all the things there. She go to church twice a week, very interested in a Bible study that she went to another day of the week, lots of reading, and sitting watching old movies or things of that nature.
And Bishop, for somebody of 88 years old, certainly not a youngster anymore, but I know she taped something for Florence Henderson's 80th birthday that I think aired earlier on this year. Nobody knew of any illness, and we learned that she had hit her head. What I mean, as much or as little as you'd like to talk about, had she been ill at all, or was this just...
No, she had not been ill. In fact, Friday night she came to our bedroom to talk good night, and the next morning she had a routine hair appointment every Saturday morning, and the first word we got was when her hairstylist called and said, "She's not here, is she all right?" We assumed that that's where she was. So I went to her bedroom, knocked, got no answer, opened the door and heard a little moaning from the far reaches. Went in and we found her on the floor in her bathroom where she had apparently fallen, hit her head, and done severe damage, a large subdural hematoma. And we immediately called the EMS. They came, took her to the hospital. She never regained consciousness, opened her eyes a couple of times, but never spoke again, and died peacefully 24 hours later.
It just sounds so shocking. How has everybody coped with this who know her?
Oh, Lordy, we're all in mourning here at our household, and our family is around us, children, grandchildren, all of whom she helped raise. Our family became her family. The only living relative she has is a twin sister who lives in Tucson, and they Skyped every day, but her home was here. This is where she's been living her life for the past almost 40 years. And so all of us are in deep mourning. We're still in a state of shock, having difficulty coming to grips with the reality of it all. But she was just such a marvelous person to know, and just a great personality. We'll miss her, obviously, but we know she's in good hands.
Absolutely. Obviously, people closely associate her with the Brady Bunch cast. Have any of them reached out since her passing?
Yes, we've had a phone call from Maureen McCormick, and the author of some of the Brady Bunch stuff, Lloyd Schwartz, very much a friend, close friend. I think one or two of them may show up for her funeral, which we'll do at her home parish here in San Antonio in a week or two. But yes, so we've gotten emails and various messages from other media.
And before I wrap this up, because I can imagine you're just terribly exhausted, I do want to just clear one thing up for people who don't understand what was going on where she lived, living in this community area. Is that a family? Is that a relationship? What kind of brother, sister, husband, wife? What? Yeah.
She'd been living with us as sort of a maiden aunt. She used to describe herself as the maiden aunt in the family. Just been a normal life with my wife and I and every other person who has been over the years part of our community. And it's just an extended family. It's just like having, a Walton-type family under one roof. Lots of people for a long time. About 17 or 18 of us living together in Denver for many years, and then it got smaller as we got older and moved around the country.
How are you going to remember her, Bishop Frey?
Oh, Lordy, I'm going to remember her as one of the center points of our community life, of our family, a loving person, the genuine article. We all project images on celebrities and so on. The image that she reflected was one of wholesomeness, a great sense of humor, love, mercy, and intelligence. And that's exactly who she was. So that's the way we'll remember Ann B.
Bishop Frey, I know this is a tremendous, tremendous loss, tremendous shock, and a tremendously busy time for you. I can't thank you enough for sharing your memories of Ann, and I do want to let the audience know Ann B. was on with us about 5 years ago from the home of Bishop Frey at that time, and it was a pleasure talking with her. She truly was, I think, everything Bishop Frey just said she was.
Oh, she really was.
Yeah. Thank you, Bishop
She's
Frey.
a real item.
Absolutely.
Well, God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.